They put F-Zero GX on the Switch! Hello everybody, so good to see you. We are riding high off of a very exciting Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. We finally got so much more information on games that we've known about, well, just being Mario Karts, features, things we can do with the Switch, backwards compatibility, and a whole bunch of new games, some of them new IPs. Though I suppose it's more appropriate to say GBG is riding high off of reporting everything in the first couple of days. The initial Switch 2 reveal and the tiny bits of Mario Kart that we got was like a leisurely afternoon jog. The Direct itself the other day was more of a marathon, so credit to all those guys for getting as much work and coverage done as they did. They did so much in such a small amount of time, it's wild. News is still going to be coming out. There will likely be more thoughts and discussions on many of these things in the future and as they're reported on. But now that there's a little bit of a lull, I can finally talk about my specific fixations. I just didn't know if there was really something we could have expected here. I thought Nintendo would focus solely on new games, but no, they did in fact dedicate a spot for GameCube titles coming to NSO. The GameCube in particular is the only console that really hasn't had any way to go back and play the classics through NSO, through the eShop, through Virtual Console. The DS, even the Nintendo DS was available to play on the Wii U. Even back then, that was like the most notable console that was missing. Everything was there except for the GameCube. And so I was wondering, is this ever going to be a thing that happens? And lo and behold, we have GameCube coming to NSO. And I did not expect The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker to be the first one that they show off. Just after so much patient waiting to see if we're going to get the HD collection of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess on Switch or Switch 2, we ended up getting it for GameCube instead. At least Wind Waker for now. And I'm not sure how to feel about that. I mean, the original is fantastic, of course, but the HD version had released with so many more quality of life improvements. The Triforce Quest being one of them, it was a lot more streamlined. We have the Swift Sail that made sailing from island to island be much more practical because it would take so much time to go from island to island. And it really makes me wonder, what is the fate of the HD collections at this point? Twilight Princess is still up in the air. It was originally a GameCube title, which also got ported to the Wii. There's still some aspects of the original Wind Waker that people prefer over the HD version, and this is maybe a happy medium because the visuals do look a lot sharper and cleaner, but now I really don't know what's going to happen with those updated versions. But beyond that, we also got Soulcalibur II. I kind of jokingly made a prediction that we were going to see a new Soulcalibur with another Nintendo representative, but you know what? I will take this original. So many people, I feel, got into the Soulcalibur franchise and arena fighting games in general through Soulcalibur II. Partially because Adult Link from Ocarina of Time made a guest appearance in this game, specifically for the GameCube version, and is quite frankly the top tier character of Soulcalibur II. This is such an important get because we don't really see Soulcalibur anymore, and other remasters and ports just haven't really done as well as they could have, so having this here is just such a cool thing to see. And after Soulcalibur 2, oh my goodness, I genuinely did not expect them to show F-Zero GX as one of the premier titles to showcase the fact that we're getting NSO GameCube. And I think this shows that Nintendo genuinely cares about F-Zero again. And that is just absolutely insane to me. Earlier this year, I did a video on F-Zero GX talking about how important it still is to the franchise, and it's one of the very best racers ever made, co-developed by Sega. So I was worried that we might never see this ever again. There was a very specific part of the video where I lamented that I could not play multiplayer with F-Zero GX. It kind of pushes the GameCube to the limit in some ways, but now we can all play this together. We can play F-Zero GX and you can all smoke me in it, or I will be spending many hours, oh god, doing the story mode again. The very difficult story mode. Can I just carry my save data from my GameCube straight to my Switch 2, Nintendo? I don't want to do it all over again, but I will. I will once again earn the Rainbow Phoenix and the Groovy Taxi. Essentially, all of the arcade content is here as well, from new racers, new tracks, and custom machine parts. It's just going to be very hard to unlock them all. You know, after watching the Treehouse play GameCube games, I gotta wonder, did you see how all the characters were unlocked? Even the ones that you would have had to play and beat story mode on very hard for. I also noticed that the AX Cup was unlocked and every single cup was beaten on every difficulty. Similarly, for Soulcalibur II, all of the unlockable characters were already playable as soon as they opened it. I wish I could ask, is the content for these games unlocked from the start? Or was this just a special build to show for the event? I'm guessing the latter, because Mario Strikers was also on the list of NSO games, most likely our next release. But I can hope and pray, because unlocking all of the above is such a big pain. Anyways, tangent aside, in F-Zero GX, I learned for the very first time that when you play in 4-player mode, the background elements are removed. They're still there in 3-player mode, but it seems in order to optimize the gameplay without compromising any costs that F-Zero was using for assets, they gotta remove some other elements. It's kind of like multiplayer Mario Kart 64, for example, where they had to just remove the music. Funny that I learned this in a Nintendo Direct. Playing this online with friends though, man, that's gonna be exciting. It was also revealed that we can finally change and customize our controls, mapping them to however we feel like it from just within the NSO app itself. And it looks like it's going to be a lot more elegant and robust than what we have right now in the Switch 1 settings. And then out of nowhere, the absolute bombshell of titles that they plan on releasing in the future. Super Mario Sunshine, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, which I am extremely excited about, which might probably also mean that we're not getting a remake of this one anytime soon, who knows. People can finally afford to play one of the best Fire Emblem titles ever made and not spend over $300 on it. This, alongside its sequel, Radiant Dawn, are simply my favorite Fire Emblem titles to this day. I am just as excited for this game to release as much as I'm hotly anticipating what people think about it and its story. Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness, that as well as Pokemon Colosseum. I'm actually quite surprised that they announced releasing both of these. I mean, they're probably not going to come out at the same time. It's possible that some of these might come out as far as a year later. There are some NSO titles in the past that had a very long gap of time from its announcement to its release. But beyond that, we also have Super Mario Strikers, one of the good ones, Chibi Robo, Luigi's Mansion. Of course Luigi's Mansion has to be here as one of the release titles for the GameCube. It is a classic. But yeah, GameCube on NSO is going to be available on Nintendo Switch 2 the same day as it releases. Such a unique mix of titles, especially when we have the open world racing game in Mario Kart and the high-speed serious business racing of F-Zero. It's a good varied starting set, with more coming out gradually. I'm kind of afraid of how slow the drift feed is going to be for these games, but man, when they showed all those other titles, I was surprised of some that we didn't get to see on here. There's no Super Smash Bros. Melee, which I feel like is part of the identity of the GameCube, and now I'm just really curious to see if Metroid Prime and or Prime 2 are also going to be added to this service. I am just really glad to see GameCube games being revived so that more people can play them again. They are also releasing a GameCube controller. Again, but this time it's gonna have a C stick and a C button. That's impressive. You know, I can totally see myself buying this controller and then immediately also using it for Super Smash Bros. Because one of the pet peeves that I have is that when you connect your GameCube to the adapter you got for the Wii U for Smash Bros., you don't have a button to go back to the home menu. And so I have to get up and either turn it off myself or grab a Joy-Con, a Pro Controller, and turn it off that way as well. I know this is first world problems. I absolutely do not need to get this controller. But very much like with the N64, I think there are certain games on here that just, the experience would not be the same if it wasn't with the controller that was specifically made for it. There are some games on N64 that just don't feel right on a Pro Controller, and I strongly feel it's going to be the same way for certain GameCube titles. You can't really have pressure-sensitive triggers on a Pro Controller, at least not in the same way that the GameCube implemented them. They are useful for games like Super Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, but are kind of vital for certain games like F-Zero GX, in which the pressure sensitivity is needed for making very fine-tuned adjustments. But aside all that, I also started to think of which titles can really benefit from being online. There were a lot of GameCube titles that really flourished when they were in the setting with more people. I am literally looking at my pile of GameCube games and thinking which ones would be the most enjoyable. And I don't know if this is a thing I should be concerned with or not, but notice how the titles have been updated to Nintendo Classics. At least for the GameCube. Are we sticking mostly to first-party Nintendo titles for the GameCube? Was Soulcalibur II given special permission, partially because Link headlines the game? There's no other third party in the list right now. I might just be paranoid, so let's just assume any game is on the table here. The first one I reached out to is Super Monkey Ball. Not only are there the obvious choices like monkey racing, bowling, fighting, and of course Monkey Target, you can also do the standard single player mode with all the monkeys. Way back when I first met the guys, we tried 4-player Monkey Ball in a little Airbnb, and I've been dying to try to play this way again. You all play at the same time and race to complete stages simultaneously. I know people will probably spend more time on Monkey Target, understandably so, but these kind of options are what make the multiplayer experiences like this so unique. Speaking of unique, another one that we played together at the same event was WarioWare Inc. Mega Party Games. This one, oh man, this was made for game chat where you can see the other players reacting while participating. Aside from maybe smooth moves, it is the single most enjoyable multiplayer WarioWare experience, and it would benefit so much from being able to connect to it with others. There is such a fun variety of games, and I wish WarioWare would commit to bringing back more 4-player modes like this. I probably shouldn't be surprised that a Mario Party wasn't even teased, since Jamboree TV is going to be the one that they want you to play right now. But eventually, I can at least see Mario Party 4, 5, and 6 coming out of here over time. They might pull what they did with 1 and 2 and release 4 and 5 together at some point. 5 is a personal favorite of mine on the GameCube, with 4 being a game I could take or leave, honestly, but they each have some very memorable minigames. You know, the Wind Waker made me think of one thing, and that's what they're going to do about Tingle Tuner connectivity. You need a Game Boy Advance to use that item, but now, what will the connectivity be like? If they think that far ahead and also wants to implement multiplayer Game Boy Advance support, why not bring a game like 4 Swords Adventures as well? I'm trying to imagine how this would work. Each Switch would be like its own GBA, but we need a fit screen to be the main map. There is the option in single player that makes it so that you get an artificial GBA overlay screen laid on top. Most likely, they would just apply that to everyone. It is so doable, and I hope they implement it that way at the very least. Full playthroughs of this game with a group of friends is one of the best experiences I can have in the multiplayer setting. And since we're on this topic, the same idea was used with Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, the original, arguably better one. Is that an argument? I don't think that's an argument. Crystal Chronicles Remastered Edition ended support on iOS, and the actual console version is just not as good as it potentially could have been. The GameCube features the ideal experience. You each have your own little menu down below, while action is always happening on screen, never stopping for anything. Even though someone has to babysit the chalice at all times, the rush of fighting a boss, combining spells, and just exploring to collect loot and other treasure is just so addicting. The Game Boy Advance connectivity added so much to certain games on the console, and it would be ashamed if it wasn't utilized. You know what has great multiplayer but no one ever really played it? Star Fox Assault. You kinda have to unlock everything first, but once you do, the combination of battling on foot and the different vehicles bring a pretty expansive experience. And that's beyond just having the game itself, which is also very good. It still feels different from Star Fox 64, and I'm not sure if the series will ever catch up to the highs that game achieved, but Assault still has its highlights, as well as probably the best multiplayer in the series. Man, with GameCube on NSO, this is just a matter of time, right? And you know what's a guaranteed matter of time? Mario Kart Double Dash. Probably not for a while since Mario Kart World is coming out very soon, but oh my goodness dude, can you imagine? The GameCube was capable of LAN connectivity, and the sheer amount of chaos that would ensue if we were to pull 16-player co-op games? I assume that the Switch 2 is strong enough to make this possible. I would lose my mind. Most of us never got to experience LAN anything with the GameCube. And another game that had LAN, Kirby Air Ride. While it does feature traditional 4-player multiplayer, it can also connect via LAN. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a LAN mode where each of the 4 individual players can play with a full screen each. Some aspects of the game were ahead of their time. That is one of the reasons I am very interested in seeing what Sakurai does with a new Air Ride, now that he has the proper time to actually make one. This game was rushed out the door, and there is so much more potential to build upon with this. But in the same way, I wouldn't expect Air Ride for a while, since Air Riders is coming this year. This year! Listen, this is all part of a plan to get an online city trial, but I did not expect that GameCube NSO and a new Air Ride would be announced in the same exact direct. So I can't be too mad if Air Ride is not going to be on the Cube in the foreseeable future, since we're probably going to get the city trial of our dreams with Air Riders. There is just so much to look forward to right now. We can have a good version of Tales of Symphonia. Symphonia Remastered is technically a Switch 1 game, and this would be only on Switch 2, so yeah, it counts. And people would care. Dunking aside, beyond just having a version that is a consistent 60 FPS that doesn't have any glaring visual issues, this game, like many other Tales games, is multiplayer. You can play through the entire game as a multiplayer experience. Now, that's kind of limited. Only one player can roam around, and your party will often be changing around and may not always have 4 people in it, but there is a point in the game where you can consistently play with a party of 4 in battle. Not a perfect experience, but it's more than what other JRPGs say they can offer, and would be very doable online multiplayer. Oh, I guess Melee would be good too. Do you think people like Smash Brothers? I will definitely be talking about these in more depth and detail in the future, and I will keep on making videos specifically for GameCube titles as well. But that's about enough for now. What GameCube titles are you looking forward to on NSO? Are there any specific titles that you definitely need to see appear on this service? And are there any hidden gems that you want others to try out too? I personally hope that we see Ribbit King. Ribbit King is my most sought after GameCube game. It is so expensive and I want more people to froth with. Please Nintendo, I am begging. Alright everybody, thank you so much for letting me talk about my favorite little lunchbox. Take care of yourselves. Till we meet again.